We're going now. Hello and welcome to Nerds of Legends, even though Joel stomped all over the intro. I'm Ben. Next to me is Joel. Next to Joel is Missy, and below me is Brennan. This week, we're going to be talking about the book Mind Games by Carolyn Crane. Just a few brief announcements and reminders. We're going to be doing... Wednesday, we're going to keep going on Candlekeep, and then Monday, I've just decided that we're going to do some Norse mythology fun because it's my topic to pick this time, unless someone has any kind of objections.
Nope, you're forward. Really excited to get that out there.
It was my turn to pick, so it just popped in my head.
Are we doing a specific Norse mythology, or just going to read just all of it?
Just going to do a little bit of some Pantheon stuff and see where that takes us.
Never mind. I was we read Neil Gaiman's Norse gods?
No. Like, the actual mythology, not the retelling of the mythology.
Through Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's not a gang sign, it's W.
Odin's Day.
Yeah. It's also a gang sign. Well done.
Odin's Day. And Frigga's Day and all that stuff. So with that out of the way, Melissa, would you like to introduce your book?
Yeah. Start the timer, Brendan.
No, it doesn't start yet. I mean, you can if you want. Oh, the this timer, not the Ben timer.
No,
3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right,
good.
Let's do this. So, the book follows the main character with Justina. So, Justina is a hypochondriac. She believes she has this syndrome called vein star syndrome, and because it doesn't exist, but because of it, she is a very highly anxious person. She's always in the ER, and so it ruins every relationship that she has. So she's unable to make these connections, and so she finds herself in this restaurant called Mongolian Delights, and she sees this man, and he stares at her with like she is the most like a saint. I forget the exact word, but he stares at her like she is the thing that he's been missing his entire life. And so it comes out that he runs this quote unquote gang. So thanks for the gang sign earlier. Maybe
street cred.
Maybe that's it. But so it's called the Disillusionists. And so each person of this group has a quote unquote superpower that they're able to, it's a neuroses, that they're able to kind of hype up their anxiety and then zing it out. And so they use it to, crash bad people and then they will reboot as, good people. And so it follows this, but there's a lot of other things that go on, relationships. Justina is trying to decide between what she thinks she wants and what she actually wants, and kind of undergoing this minor character development. You see a little bit more of it throughout the rest of the series, but there is a love triangle-ish. I don't really count Cubby as, the third. So then you see the the juxtaposition of Justina between Packard and Otto. And so what she thinks she wants versus what she really wants. And then when I picked this book, I pre-vetted it with Joel because we listened to it as an audiobook, and he goes, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I stand by that.
So it was not, I did not know or remember all of the sex in it, which scandalized certain members of the stream.
Scandalize me. It was just annoying.
Yes.
So putting that out there.
Whatever word you want to use for scandalize is fine.
There is quite a bit of sex in it, and with that, I will turn it over to Ben and actually open it up for a 5-minute bitch about all of the sex and how it was very poorly written in some places, especially a cucumber.
I know that was an adjective. Cucumber.
I'm going to start it off with the phrase that really set me off, which was balanced, wrapped her center of gravity around his cucumbery cock.
It's so much more fun.
It's because it's not about the sex. It's about the really, really shitty metaphors, Melissa. And it's just,
I don't know. Hearing you say that out loud makes it awesome. Like, balance her.
Yeah, it's like
that's the only way I want to report any of my.
It's like how 50 Shades of Grey becomes 10 times better when Gilbert Gottfried narrated it. You know, like that's where we're at. But like, my biggest gripe was this girl like Justine tried to act all like, oh, I'm in control of myself. But then every time any male
she's the easiest aroused person alive.
She literally faucet.
Now, I will say, so a couple of things, right? So first off, yes, unrealistic.
Yes, I've only seen people turned on faster in porn. Like this.
God, I was like,
but they do preface it by saying a lot of those scenes are in her glory hour, which is
no.
There's so many that are
not. It just ratchets up weirdness in the glory hour.
Like she's like horny, and then right before she zings somebody, and then it gets even worse. Like
the VA didn't help because the VA sounds like she's almost there 90% of the time. Like Justine's number one statement is, "Oh God!" Like really,
oh God.
He has a lot of like self-righteousness, right?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep.
We got 3 minutes and 56 of sex.
It's just like even time the men that she found repugnant, she'd find some way to get like turned on to them. Like she just got kidnapped, and this like crazed like rapist is about to like violate her, and then she finds a way to get like her juices flowing from that somehow. And it's just like, or like she finds this other guy, Simon, who's like absolutely repugnant to her. She's like she liked talking about all these guys like, oh, their eyes were like jewels. And,
she's very, very horny.
Simon with his eyes like shining sapphires.
Yeah, like Joel, you took a second to try to think of a better word, but all you could.
There wasn't a better word.
Horny. It's just horny.
It's just like
all the time.
I've ever seen. Like, and what's funny is like I've said this to Ben and Missy several times since rereading this book. I love this story.
Oh yeah,
I cannot stand the main character.
We're gonna get into that. Yeah,
I love it, but the main character can't stand her.
Well, you guys so one thing that's a little so the sex it jumps out at you. Like you've obviously not read as much romance as I have, right? So for me, I don't even it doesn't even cross.
It's not, like I said, it's not even about the sex talk. It's
the wording about it.
It's like how there's some of these authors, it's like take a freaking romance course or something, and there's ways to say this stuff without sounding like a 7th grader that's never actually seen a penis before or something.
I would go the other way. This is somebody who has seen so many penises and written about penises. They're struggling to find new ways to say that they have encountered penis.
Yeah, they're trying to not be repetitive or something.
I feel like this was one who's I can't say throbbing cock again. I use that.
Cucumbers. Cucumbers look like penises.
That looks like a dick. Perfect.
What's fascinating about the cucumber comparison is it starts so much debate. Is it warty like a cucumber? Is it veiny? Does it have a lot of
It's green.
Is it a reference to the size? Is it the color?
Is it size? Is it purpley and deep? Does it have warts on it?
Green, and it has that weird bulge at the end, kind of
furrows in it. Is it oblong?
It's.
That's actually the funniest comparison that she used, because it's everyone's gonna picture it differently.
so many different possibilities for
and
it.
I did laugh audibly when I read about the cucumber.
No, Max.
No, he mutes it.
He can't.
Max is protected from.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, he can't hear it. Yeah.
Our lascivious debauchery
Max likes to make at least one appearance just to make sure that Ben's still indignant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day,
I'm starting to think this point in time, Ben's get over here, Max. Prove that I've done it. Stand there looking like me.
No, it's
here's my fuck trophy.
Yeah, it's
Here is my award for having the sex. A male child, for I have sexed properly.
Well, this is kind of like more getting into the book of it, but like, there's like so many times where she...
You got 16 seconds to rail out.
Where like, she talks about like how much she's like, she loves like all of her action, like, Brennan, you can give, you're probably better explaining this. It's like all of her like talk does not back up like the action.
And time is up. No more stuff bitching about sex.
Well, now I'm actually talking about the book. Like,
yes,
there's like so much, like she says things, but then it's like, oh, I love Cubby so much, and then proceeds to like.
But that's why, right? Like, because she's at odds. She desperately wants to be normal, right?
Right.
You learn a little bit in this book, but she has like a fucked up childhood. Like, her dad is like a doomsday prepper. Like, he comes in like full like a suit, like, and won't breathe like room air. Like, her mom died when she was young, so she has these like incredibly neurotic parents who like. The worst case actually did happen. It transferred to her. She's highly anxious. All she wants is to be normal. And so that's what she's pressing for. She says that she wants it. And Cubby is this like completely average, like just like nothing person. Like you couldn't even picture what he looks like.
He's just a suit that like is kind of hippie-ish that just like, he goes out for a happy hour on Fridays. He's got some like friends in his condo.
Person.
Yeah.
He's a generic salesperson / finance bro. You know, like, what are you doing? Making money, living the American dream, like that kind of guy.
And so you have this, and that's what she says she wants, but she doesn't. No. Not only is she probably not capable of that boring existence.
Well, she failed out.
She doesn't actually want it. Like,
she failed out the minute Packard took her anxiety away from her, and she was able to get rid of her anxiety. Immediately she started coming up with excuses and failing in her relationship with Cubby. Yeah.
Well, because
she lived 90% of her life was this mental thing. It was
idealized.
Yeah, it was there. That's the word I was looking for.
Of what she wants her existence to be, but she is not capable or prepared to do it. And so the series is her coming to terms with that. Now, her as a person, her as a character, she fucking sucks.
She's garbage.
She is she is selfish. She is self-righteous.
Yeah.
She is just like awful, and like everyone is like mean to everyone.
Cheater,
and then plays the victim. Like she is a very selfish, not likable person, but somehow
she's just medium pretty though.
The structure of the story is like very
bizarre.
Interesting. Like, as someone who is highly anxious, like to zap that out to someone, how cool would that be?
Yeah,
you do that to me literally all the time.
Yeah, but it's like her entire thing is like, and then like half of the show is like. Or half of the book is like her friendship book is her relationship with Sophia, and basically, was that the name? Sophia?
Wow. Sophie, the revisionist that you hear 2 sentences about?
Yeah. So
no,
Aggie and
no, he's talking.
Who's
about
the Russian chick?
The Russian.
Oh, it's been a week.
Yeah,
the girl.
Sylvia.
I know exactly who you're talking about, but I can't.
Sylvia, maybe? I don't know. Shelby.
Shelby, there you go. Yeah, you can tell that was pertinent.
She like half of the book, or like not half, but like a lot of the book is like her having like a bitch sesh with Shelby, where Shelby's like, "No, you're not a bad person."
This is her favorite. Just
yeah,
but Shelby sucks too.
Yeah, everyone sucks.
All the
just a yes person to help her like to continue in her actions without. Questioning. Yes, of course you're right. Just keep doing it.
Now, I will tell you, I could not stand Justine either. She is especially the one scene where I think I was listening to it. It was so shitty. I like called Ben immediately, and I think I complained to Missy like 5 seconds after that. But it was like, one of it was the dry humping session where Missy told me I don't know how to read romance because I was like
the dry humping. Yeah,
cock is pressing into her. I'm like, holy shit, they're going at it this fast.
And, like right against the restaurant, the front of the restaurant door.
Right, and then like 4 seconds later, afterwards, she's like, I love Cubby more than anything. And Packard's like, what?
No,
what
they're like in the middle of like dry humping. She's like, he never apologized.
It didn't sound like it was like an accidental like brush up against each other. She's like, that was an accident. It sounded like they were like going in hard, like practice Mormons.
Yeah.
And it was not, it was just so bizarre that she stops and gets indignant.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you? I love Cubby.
Packard never apologized.
Yeah, no, that was that was her whole, trapping her.
Yeah, like he trapped her. He didn't like. Are you guys gonna finish the series?
No.
He doesn't. Like it's all bullshit. All
so he's lying.
He's manipulating these people to try to get him free, right? And so ultimately, he didn't lie to Justina because he didn't want to lie to her.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's why she was the only one. He has been treating different. He can see her psychological structure, right? Mm-hmm. Like, not only did he see her as a savior for like the Vein Star that he was trying to get Otto, like to get like to like crash him, he also saw her structure, right? So he says a couple times throughout the book, throughout the series, where he's like, you know, like, I see you, but you have to come to this on your own. Like, your structure, what you want is different than what you need. And, like, that's him. But how she treats him is fucking awful. She is awful. Like, she is selfish.
Yeah, she can't, like, like, she can't separate the fact that this guy literally basically saved her life. Like, she was, like, a week away from being, like, involuntarily, like, put in a sanitarium.
Yeah.
Like, and like, and she can't see beyond that because he like, she traded like one prison for another is like all she could think about. But like, you know, it's like the prison, like the new prison, which is like basically, you know, like the same as like if she was like medicated for her anxiety. And it allows her to live a normal life. It's just like
took that route one time to be like, I'm going to go try meds.
Well, so that's her thing, right? She doesn't like that he trapped her, and so you have this, and he didn't mean to, right? Like he tried not to. So then you have like, so she starts dating Otto. Otto is this cop, and he's perfect, and he's everything.
But he's also like super well rounded and everything. So he's like the fancy kid goes to the opera and. Fancy clothes and balls, yeah.
And so what happens is she comes to the realization in the second book that she doesn't want to be with him, that she can't, like, that Packard is who she wants, and then she finally...
It's basically the whole Akatar thing.
Yeah. So she finally goes and bangs him, and they like, or whatever, and so she goes to leave Otto, and Otto
won't let her leave.
No, and so Sophia revises her. And then, so she, like, the third book is Packard trying to, like, get her to remember and come back. So you have this whole thing, and then he's scared of Vein Star because someone in his childhood, like, said he was going to die of a head injury. That's why he wears the thing. So
berets are the best head protection ever.
Yeah, so I was like, the beret somehow protects his noggin? Is it like super padded?
Is it like 2 beret?
Yeah. What the fuck?
I don't know why, but I thought a top hat would have been more convincing. I don't know why.
It's a beret that gives some resistance to bludgeoning damage.
Wearing a beret,
bludgeoning damage.
It was just so unbelievable that it was a beret.
It's like also as a cop, so like maybe have him just wear a police helmet like all the time. Like
there's a lot of details that I feel were. Again, I have to say, I like the story of, like, going out and throwing your anxiety into somebody to, like, destabilize them. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. That being said, I feel like the research for this process was 15, 20 minutes tops for the entirety of the writing of the book. Yeah. Like, I couldn't get over the use of things like touching their energy dimension. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It felt like poorly written.
Hand wave it. Just hand wave it.
Yeah.
And, like, the high caps, like, there's a lot of things about it that, like, the premise is, like, interesting. The story itself is interesting to me. I read or have read way more romance than you guys do. So, like, that.
Yeah, Brendan's in there quiet being like
I don't even, like, think about it, right? Like,
I've got an award.
I can separate it, whereas you, I think... A lot of that really pulls you out. Same with Joel. Like,
I feel like it should, like, it always seems to be like heavy-handed. It doesn't contribute anything to the story. Like, it's just there. Like, if it like contributed somehow, it's just like all of a sudden, like, you're walking around, they're sitting in the restaurant, all of a sudden she just like creams her pants and just like staring into Packer's eyes. Like,
now,
I'm sorry, like, it's like, like,
can you separate the story from the sex?
I've already mentioned, I love the concept. I liked the story. I just found all of, like, a lot of the characters to be highly unlikable.
Yeah.
The only person I liked was Cubby, and I felt so bad for Cubby.
And Cubby is
honestly,
just
you feel like he escaped. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even with the Silver Widow, like the Alchemist, like
Justine.
but then you have her like with Ben Foley, like her, like the person who ruined her childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like her life, her family,
right.
Her stability, like, and she sees him at his lowest, and she's like, man, is it worth it? Right? Like, am I doing, like, what am I doing? And so she comes back and she talks to Cubby, and like, he's like, you're a good person, Justina. Like, you know, it's fine. You know, and it's, I don't know, right? Like, so they're taking away the free choice, right? They're taking away someone's ability to choose. And that's it.
They basically really break them down to the point where like they basically destroy a person's free will to the point where like their only option is to sort of like become a good person, I guess.
Yeah. Like, and so is that your, like, and if you think so, the high caps, right? Like they develop the thing, they get the power that they most needed as a child.
Yeah. As a baby.
So, you know, like,
which is awesome, by the way.
Like,
that is an incredible. Sorry, not to interject. That is, and now this is where we have read a lot more fantasy and like stuff like that. That's one of the coolest ways of determining how you get your ability is by what you need as a child. That's very cool.
It's almost like X-Men-y, like the X. You know, like a lot of times, like the X-Men gene comes into effect at your like a stressful moment. Yeah. Where it's like but this you end up getting a power that you need at the time or whatever, you know.
Yeah, but in X-Men, like like you don't get the power you need. Some of them just get some bullshit ass mutation that sucks. Right. Like this
some of them do, but others don't. Yeah, obviously others don't.
What you need.
Yeah, and that's why it's like telekinetics are like the most common because it's like they're kids that are like it's like a kid that like really, really, really needed to like get the toy off the shelf, and then all of a sudden like the toy's in their hand, or like
but like how sad is it that the thing that Packard needed the most was to understand people, like as a baby, like that, and Otto, like his need for stability, right, his need for that force field to find a place that's
to control
enough. Like, you know, you even like you have the telekinetics that are like, you know, that's lazy. But like it, like the premise of it is fascinating, right? Like I think the story, like a lot of like the plot in itself, like you can.
One thing I'm like unclear on is like the disillusionist thing. Is it like Packard giving them the ability, or is it like sort of a thing that like anybody could do if they can harness their like emotional?
It sounds like anybody can do it if they can harness their emotion. What I want to know is like. There's a part at the end where Otto was freaking out, like, and Justine decided to tell him, and so he's freaking out, and he's like, "You gave me all of this joy and everything else," but that made me think, like, they can only throw out whatever they have an excess of, right? Like their anxiety. Like I took it like they can only throw out their anxieties and things like that. They can't throw out joy and happiness and other things. It's only whatever they're
because remember, because earlier on Packard's like, oh, you can't have like too much caffeine or like you can't do any drugs anymore because if you like zing that, all of your like energy from the stuff is gonna go into me. Or like the alchemist, she zings him and she's like all drugged up on like some kind of like
but she
date rape cocktail, and she like zings it all into him. So it's like
the story felt very disjointed at periods of times. At periods of times, things that were said one point in time don't seem to apply.
Mm-hmm. Like some unresolved threads, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the series as a whole, I do think it wraps up fairly nicely, right?
Yeah.
There's multiple like plots that aren't necessarily like, if you could read more about the Disillusionists and like just their story, their
absolutely.
That, like going in and destabilizing, that would be interesting. Like I like Justina and Packard, to be honest. I'm happy. Like I like their resolution. But it's not like in how her development comes, right? So towards the end of the series, the worst case has happened. She does break the revise. She comes back. They're trying to, like Packard's trying to be free. They're trying to bring down Otto, like all of this stuff, right?
Because Otto betrays everybody because Justine left him.
Yeah, and so he dies.
She doesn't sound like a medium pretty person.
If Otto were really as well adjusted as they presented him to be for so long, I remember as I arrived there, I was like, he would have gotten over a medium pretty Justine so quickly. Like,
But again, like, because she understands, right?
Yeah.
Like, she understands the Vein Star. She understands that fear in a way that no one has.
Yeah.
And so his power, right? His structure, stability, that need for, that kind of, force field. Of course, he, like, to have someone who fully understands you're not alone.
Yeah.
Of course, I can see why he wouldn't want her to leave, because he feels that kinship, that connection. And him and Packard have been, at odds with each other since they were children. So that's also not unsurprising that they would have this obsession with the same person, because they both represent something to them.
Do we find out eventually that like Packard's lying about like the you can't zing somebody that I don't tell you to zing? Yeah.
So once he gets out, so she gets out to drop it, he leaves. He everything kind of comes to the surface, but the disillusionists don't really go away. Instead, they're truly voluntary, right? So they still, but it moves away from targets, and the target is Otto, right? The target is breaking Justina's revise and bringing her back, and in that, you bring they focus all their efforts, and so there are no new targets.
Yeah, because they fix all the high caps that Otto had captured and stuff.
Yeah.
So then they're what do we do now? They're get rid of Mayor Otto.
Yeah, he picks the targets. He tells them you need to revise this person. That's how he's breaking the crime. He's bringing the crime down.
Yeah. Huh.
Brendan, you've been very quiet. What is your...
I mean, you know me. I don't like stepping on feet.
You better get over that really quick in this group.
Yeah.
Because we'll just keep jabbering on, and you're never going to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah. You got to learn to cut in. We'll practice that.
Yeah. You guys know Shark Tank, right? The show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of when Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, when he approaches someone with an idea, and who's presenting their idea, and he goes, "Your idea is great. This is not the idea for you. You are not the person for this idea. I will give you $2 million to give me full rights in perpetuity for this idea and to go away." And they're like, "No, I can do it myself. I'm sorry." I turn it down. And then you never hear from them again. The idea of this book, the premise behind it, I felt like the sex, as someone who watches a lot of anime, as someone who reads a lot of fan fiction, I mean, there's a famous story. I mean, I think Ben already knows it. The first time I read erotic fan fiction was by accident, trying to find how to beat Emerald Weapon in Final Fantasy VII. I was on a Final Fantasy VII strategy guide website when I was like 11 or 12, and it was like the Untold chapter, and I'm like, "Oh, is this a secret in the game?" And of course,
it's cloud fan fiction.
like every one of these books, love triangle. right? and to the races, right? I felt like
in the figure out how to beat it.
I figured out how to beat it in more ways than one.
Beat something else.
Yeah. So first off, if you get Knights of the Round,
that was the first time Brendan whacked it to words.
Oh, it wasn't then. But yeah,
I beat off the words before.
To answer your question, if you want to beat Emerald Weapon, you need to have the materia that lets you breathe underwater for starters. But yeah, the sex was like encroaching on the idea of this book.
It was always at the most jarring moment. I feel like it was just always like the dramatic tension was at its height, and all of a sudden Justine's like, "Oh, I'm horny now. We're gonna talk about that instead."
The book felt crowded to me. It felt like it had to hit the ground running. Like this person that had ruined her life happened to be in the restaurant with her, with Packard and Cubby's there, and it just kind of it felt like it had to fly to fit the premise and all the sex. Like I'm 13 pages in, and the car fingering begins, and it just kind of.
I forgot about the fucking traffic fuck.
Yeah, the traffic fucking.
It was like literally the most awkward thing. Like
it's like so you want to do it?
Yeah, the sexiest line you've ever heard. You want to do it?
Yeah, there's a lot of like stilted adjectives in this, and the dialogue felt like cramped and mouthy. Like I felt like I could see the author deciding what words she was going to give the characters rather than seeing distinct characters. And I feel like when you have enough of sex like is in this book, the men are reduced to, I felt like, ice cream flavors. And Packard, I immediately knew, I'm like, Packard's going to be the one. He's going to be the flavor of ice cream that she chooses.
Chocolate chip.
It reduced me to like, okay, Twilight and After and all of these books where it's like a person who has this much sex. I'm going to say, like in your 30s, if you're having this much casual sex in your 30s with that much speed, the tameness with which the frequency of sex is happening, I'm like, if you have this much sex, you're a dirty dog. You're like the sex is almost too tame for its frequency.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can see the middle-aged woman enjoying this book, like having this amount of sex and being like, okay, I've returned full circle to the normalcy I want. I'm like, I've had my spurt. I'm now back to I've had my fun of all of this sex that's limited by my imagination because I'm not a freak, but I want to be. And then I've decided, no, I'm not. I've returned back. I've had my tour of the world, and I want my normal man. I've had my fun while I'm doing that laundry, and it's time to return back to normalcy. And the sex felt like that in this. The premise was so much more interesting to me. I read this book. I read a PDF. It was not audio. I didn't have a jacket for. I didn't have any fly leaves.
The PDF probably made it so much better because the VA was questionable at best.
Yeah, it was like I watched Parasite in theaters the year it won Best Picture. I saw no trailers because it was international. I saw no commercials for it. I went in blind. And going into this book blind without any premise for the telepathy and the transfer of fear and the idea, like you learn of it organically. Mm-hmm. And I sort of had to figure out what was going on naturally throughout reading the premise. And that to me was really cool. The way the ideas are presented. I thought of like the concept of Otto, the concept of a character being in a position of power and also having and also having those abilities at your disposal. As someone who reads as much sci-fi as we do, the first thing I thought of as this was coming up was there was a government agency. This is going to be super regulated and under wraps. The CIA is going to have people who can pass fears and emotions immediately.
No, it wasn't. It was just like
I was building this anthill in my mind that it never arrived
never
there.
Showed up. Yeah,
it was very similar to the movie. It's a Brian De Palma movie, Blowout. It's a conspiracy movie with Travolta, where he records a murder happening, like he records special effects for movies, and he accidentally records a political assassination. And throughout the whole movie, I'm like, is it going to go up to like the senator? Because he was running for president. I'm like, is it going to be like this whole thing? And in that movie, it's him and a prostitute who was in the car, and they never really find out who did it. They never get to the bottom of it. It never gets resolved. And in this, I'm like, oh, this is going to be this whole conspiracy or the government agencies, and it's about the fuck. Yeah. And the floor kind of fell out.
It's more about her journey of herself.
Yeah.
And then like
because it was crazy because it's like it was like half the time they were saying like, oh, the public doesn't believe in high caps. Yeah. And then the other half of the time they're like, oh, we figured out that there's a high cap gene that's like, there's like a thing that like causes the high cap gene to activate. Like, it's like simultaneously striding that like nobody believes it's real, but also we know exactly how it works. So it's like, which one is it? And like, why is it like, why isn't this like being like regulated at all? Like,
well, that is fair. I'd never actually thought about it that way. And honestly, it makes sense because I don't read a lot of it. But like, if the government knew that this was a real thing, like these fuckers would be like test subjects
rounded up in fucking like.
But again, it goes back to like how long has it been this way, and is it the high capabilities?
Well, at least like Packard's at least like 30.
How long did people have these abilities?
How long does the government know?
Yeah.
Well, it's gone on for at least 20 years because like Otto and Packard are like 30, right? Or like 30, like mid 30s.
Yeah.
But it also sounded like a thing that is just like it's known to be a thing. You know, like nobody actually cares about it.
Yeah, but it's set in the U.S.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Like that is.
It's like they'd have like a weaponized like military like telekinetic brigade. You know, like.
Yeah. My mind was drawn to to Judge Anderson in Judge Dredd. I was thinking of like Precogs in Minority Report. I was drawn to all of these applications.
The Mutant Registration Act and
Registration Act.
Yeah, like it's a big trope for this. But remember, we haven't decided if this is a romance or if it's an actual urban fantasy. I read a classification of this being classified as urban fantasy romance. I mean, like it could be. Yeah, there's some weird stuff happening in the cities, but we're really here for the fucking.
I feel like it was like almost like the story was like just the vehicle for the romance plot.
That's kind of what it feels like a little bit too. Is like
it sucks because it's like it's such a great concept, great story, and then it's just like gets dumbed down and like. Sorry if I'm offending anybody, but it gets dumbed down into this like romance thing that like is with characters that aren't even likable or don't even like make sense or like.
But I wonder if like that's kind of the point. Like if you think about Maria V. Snyder, right? Like Poison Study, like that was part of Harlequin, and that was an imprint, right?
Yeah.
Of like them. And so I'm wondering, like for me, because it does seem so distinct, that like is it that the story came first and the sex was an afterthought to target it to the
to sell it.
That's an excellent point. Is it does seem like they were written second,
like she wrote out the story and then injected like sex metaphors in whenever she could to like make
decided to interject a story. Yeah,
the editor said like, "Hey, we love the book, but it needs
sex it up a little bit."
Whatever. Like, like it. Just
maybe she added the sex for page count, for word count. You know,
like it just seemed distinct.
Yeah, well, the sex a lot of the
it was like two different writers.
That's true. A lot of the time, it feels like
you're like going on. I was like, yes, this is awesome, and then all of a sudden it's like cucumbery cock. I'm like, whoa. Like
I've had to go back. I've had to go back a few times while reading it and been like, what in the hell is happening? Yeah. Because like I'd go back. Did I miss something? How are they banging?
Mm-hmm.
The sex and poison study. Mm-hmm. I bought.
Oh yeah.
The idea
it was very subtle.
I don't even think it happens until
the end.
The very end.
Yeah, but the idea, the idea of like having brief physical clashes, just like sex is almost like trauma relief because you're in a very stressful situation, is very common.
Yeah,
I mean, season 8 of Game of Thrones, Arya's like, we're all gonna die. I need to let one out. That I understand the premise of that in this book.
But they weren't really traumatized. They had all been living with this.
Exactly.
This is their world. Like that's like me being like, oh, Whoppers are no longer $5. 2 for $5. Like,
if it had
like
been
literally
presented,
no It was literally like just a continuation of their life with a minor inconvenience.
Yeah, if it had been presented as if Justine's like, holy shit, first I was a hypochondriac for so long, now I'm sort of, I can't remove myself from this guerrilla group, right? These vigilantes. I could see her like wanting to bang everybody because they're all.
But she was pre-horny before she found that out.
Yeah, she was pre-horny, so it was for that reason, the sex it became a premise to sampling all the flavors of ice cream. Yeah. I could see if the sex ramped up when let's say they had to go.
The glory hour made sense. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense.
Because I could see the glory hour thing. It's like I could see if you're like in this like fear state and all of a sudden that's gone. I can only imagine like your brain is like gonna like pump out so many endorphins because like it like feels this threat is finally like past. Right. But
also if she would have, this is my opinion, if she would have kept all of the sex only in the glory hour, you still could have had tons of banging and it would have flowed so much better. But I still feel like, as somebody who is struggling to fill the word count for for parts of your story so that it doesn't like get all bunched up, I feel that a lot of the sex was just tossed in there because some of it is jarring. And I want to say again, I've listened to this one and I love the story. I think the story is great. I will be finishing the rest of the trilogy because I enjoy the story. The story is fun for me. It's a great story. But
definitely what kept me reading.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did go through the book very quickly.
Yeah, you want to know what's happening. You want to know where it's going. And it's just
but like every time I'm like, oh god, this again.
Like the only time I've ever read a story where I was like the main character, you're like, we could do without this one, but I mean like the rest of the
get rid of Justine. I want to just follow the Disillusionists around. Like
the writing she writes about Justine as playing her disillusionist role. When she is playing the role.
Oh, it's amazing. That's the only time I like her.
Yeah, she's awesome at that. I'm starting to think that Carolyn Crane, I'm starting to think that she probably has a little bit of hypochondria herself.
Yeah.
Like that character reads so authentic and it's like, you know where she's coming from.
Well, and like, that's a little bit interesting though, is because even though you don't like the main character, you still want to read, right? You're still compelled. You hate her, but you also kind of love to hate her, but also just really hate her. Like it's this weird dichotomy because you want her to get off, and like not get off, but like you want her to get off
the screen. Yeah,
like you want her out because she's annoying, but you still want to like you're still driven to hear and understand.
Take our young, who's also upset.
So a lot of it kind of felt like. Like I saw a lot of parallel. Maybe it's just like this romance thing. A lot of it felt like ACOTAR in a way. Like there's like you've got like the prim and proper like prince who's Otto, and then you've got like the dark, broody kind of like not so clean cut one that is Packard, and then it's like.
Edward Jacob.
Yeah, it's the Edward and Jacob. Yeah,
Edward Jacob. It's just like a classic. I've seen this damn triangle so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And love triangles usually like drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But like from like I mean, even if you think back to like Twilight, like everyone's like, oh, I'm on Team Jacob. Well, first of all, there is no Team Jacob. Like that was never really like an option.
It was an afterthought. It felt
like it was an afterthought. Like it was, if we were normal, if we did this, if all of these things happened, then you would maybe have been the option, right? Like, but this is the same thing. But for me, this triangle doesn't bother me as much because it is that internal struggle. It is that I want this. I think I want this. I don't actually want this. And so it is her, the journey that you see is her coming to terms with what she actually like needs and what her idealized version of life, self, relationships, everything that is not actually reality.
I still think she's a garbage cheater.
She is, yeah. At the end, she marries Packard, like, Otto dies. She marries Packard. Everyone lives happily ever after. They're no longer. She no longer needs to zing. Like, she has all of her anxieties have been realized, and she made peace with dying.
Why does she all of a sudden, like, not have to zing?
Because she was going to sacrifice herself. She was going to die. So she'd made peace with dying, that it no longer mattered.
Huh.
And Ben's old man face shows itself again.
Before I
forget, I pictured Cubby in this book as Paul Allen, played by Jared Leto in American Psycho, and I could not unsee it.
It's the guy that gets like murdered in the apartment in American Psycho
by Patrick Bateman
with the axe.
Why do you have so many newspapers? Do you have like a dog or something? I just imagine Cubby as Paul Allen the entire book and could not unsee it, and it made it so much more enjoyable. Yeah, because it's like I just felt it was like fuck you. Cubby's you talk about how great Cubby is, and then you're just like eye banging Packard like 24/7.
It talked about in the beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
She does. She thinks she wants him.
I don't care.
You're not like you're indignant because you're like, this is cheating, and I agree with you that it is fundamentally cheating.
Yeah,
but like
I agree with enough anxiety. You can cheat all you want.
I think we gotta have a conversation.
Well, shit.
Well, Joel, this couch is always open for you.
You're just 5 minutes down the road, so
just 5 minutes down the road.
That's a joke. I don't have any anxiety.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're stuck on that. He's not real. He is an archetype. He is nothing. He is like
it's just words, Ben. Shut up being a prude.
Cubby's not a person. I was 4 sentences in, and I knew that he was
going to be out. I know.
She was finishing that bowl of ice cream and moving to the flavor she wanted. I was immediately just half of a person.
There was a conversation. I want to say it was between her and Otto.
Like, where you got to leave again. It's okay.
She explained that she was explaining that I don't know if it was her or whoever, but like she lived with her anxiety so high and was afraid that this was it, that she couldn't commit to anything. So nothing felt real, and she lived a life of just fantasy.
Yeah.
And being able to take it. So like she was like 2 months was a long period of time, but in reality, everything was just flavoring from her routine trips to the ER and her freaking out on her internet binges and stuff. Like even her relationship with Cubby, which was 2 months, and she was like, I'm a connoisseur of him. No, you're not, bitch. You don't know shit after 2 months.
I know, but she desperately wants, it's even her.
She tries to force it.
She tries to force it in this idea. She wants to force herself to be normal, but she can only keep up with it, right? She only gets the boyfriends for a few months because
she crazes
them out. She can't before they get tired of her ER visits or whatever. But also,
before they get her number,
how much money is she in debt here? Like, because those ER visits
are America. She's in debt. Yeah.
Well, they mentioned it a couple times, but then it like never.
Clothing store. You know, she doesn't have insurance.
Yeah. She works for she was the manager of the department store.
Still pretty certain she's not getting. They're probably not giving her top tier insurance.
So Ben, sex aside, do you like the story?
I said I like the story.
If the next books did not have sex or better written sex or whatever it is,
better written sex and like sex that makes sense, yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna
instead of her acting like a 12-year-old.
Yes.
I'm gonna take the no on this.
You wouldn't. Why not?
The scope of the abilities are so comprehensive, so subtle. The subversion that could be proliferated with these abilities. All I could think about was the bigger picture that was never expanded upon.
Yeah.
Heavy adjective use, kind of stilted dialogue to me. I could still see the author kind of just this is how this person would sound. This is how this person would sound. Honestly, I feel like if she just focused on the book with no sex, and then I give her three hot, steamy, dirty dog scenes, and said you got to find places to put them, I feel like it would have been a very, very solid book. The idea is what got me to the end. It's not enough to get me to the next book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I would.
I actually kind of agree with the Brendan on that. Yeah, there's I feel like there's so many ideas that aren't getting expounded on that, like, for what this is, like, could be so much better. Well, like it just like doesn't get there, you know. And like I don't know, you've read it, so you know, but like I feel like it could get so much, like as like
a series
that you want. And I've never.
I just want to see about Packard and Otto and where their story ends up. Like, see about that one. Like,
they end fine.
Well, never mind. They don't need to read it anymore.
When he dies.
Yeah.
He makes sure he's not alone. He holds him when he dies.
Well, now I don't need to read it.
Like the whole,
back to Akatar.
There's this whole thing where they talk about the Goyces, and like they killed this whole family and hit them in the things, right?
Yeah.
But it turns out it's because they couldn't read cursive. So it wasn't the Goyces, it was the Joyces, and that's why this family is targeting them.
Clerical error. Oh
what
my
are you
gosh.
talking about?
Who couldn't read cursive?
Later.
It must have been a Zoomer.
We're too far into the next book.
Must have been a Gen Z murderer. Couldn't
With
read
that, I believe you guys said you had a hard cutoff of 6 o'clock. Yeah. So we're going to get going off here, but I will say that the next book, which was coming as a fan suggestion from a friend of mine, is Bone Shaker by Sherry Priest, which is it's a little bit different from what we normally do. It's steampunk with some zombies and some good stuff. You know, we'll see how it goes. I know Joel doesn't like zombies, but
I hate them.
That's what I said.
Well, you take rotting flesh and add steam, you're going to get a bad smell.
Yeah. So
good. Thanks for that.
So it's kind of like a little bit of everything. You know, steampunk. Sherry Priest. It's on Scribed.
Thank you, fans, for fan suggestions.
Yep. So.
Oh, I got a dramatized adaptation.
Ooh, that's even better. Oh yeah, there's Will Wheaton voices it on the Scribed one. So
yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. You got my attention.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's on the same for the Audible versions, but that's it for that. Again,
it's a short one. It's only 7 hours.
Yeah, I did see that as well. So it was not a 24-hour fan recommendation like the last time.
Yeah, I don't know. I would go back and read that one. All right. Well, I'm out.
Thanks everybody for watching. It was a good talk, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday for some more Dungeons and Dragons action.
All right, bye everyone.
See you later,
guys.